Blood sprayed from Xenos' maw as the most feared Pandronian warrior in the galaxy collapsed, scales turning a deathly grey, while a shocked crowd watched the imposing legend start to die before their eyes. The ancient Colosseum of Drokesh fell silent as the battle-scarred champion Xenos clashed with the younger clan leader Zortak, a fierce duel between the greatest fighters on Pandros Prime. Reptilian spectators packed the stone stands, their orange eyes fixated on the combatants who embodied the strength and brutality of their species. Zortak's crimson scales glinted under the twin suns as he lunged with lightning speed, his plasma-edged sword humming through the air. But Xenos, with his decades of experience and unparalleled cunning, anticipated the strike. The grizzled warrior pivoted at the last moment, allowing Zortak's momentum to carry him past. Seizing the opening, Xenos swung his massive battle axe in a deadly arc. Victory was within Xenos' grasp when an unseen force felled the mighty warrior. He crumpled to the blood-soaked sand, his axe falling from nerveless fingers as he clutched his heaving chest. The crowd watched in disbelief as their champion writhed in agony, his scales fading to a sickly grey hue never before seen. Pandros Prime's finest medical experts were summoned by Emperor Drakthor himself, but even they were baffled by Xenos' condition. As confusion turned to despair, an unexpected transmission crackled through the communication array. Russell Ward, a human diplomat from the distant Sol system, claimed that Earth's advanced medical technology could save the dying legend. Though the Pandronians despised outsiders, the Emperor knew that losing Xenos would devastate his people and destabilize the delicate clan hierarchy, potentially igniting a catastrophic civil war. With great reluctance, the High Council permitted the human ship to land. The eyes of an entire world now rested upon the soft, fleshy creatures from a distant star, as they became the last hope for a hero whose loss would reshape the fate of Pandros Prime. The humans had to cure Xenos. There was no other choice. If they failed, the most important being to an entire civilization would perish. Unfathomable galactic chaos would consume the Pandronians, with Xenos' death heralding the end to their way of life. Everything the Pandronians knew would collapse into unending violence without their leader. Only the human held the key to salvation, but could they unlock it before time ran out? As the USS Nightingale touched down on the scorched landing pad of the Pandronian capital, Russell Ward marched down the ramp, his crew cut hair unruffled by the hot, dry wind. His icy blue eyes scanned the hostile crowd of reptilian warriors, their scales glinting in the harsh sunlight. Dr. Liam Chen, Dr. Sophia Patel, and Nurse Alex Novak followed close behind, their white medical uniforms a stark contrast to the Pandronians' dark battle armor. Emperor Drakthor stepped forward, his massive frame towering over even Russell's 6'3" stature. The Emperor's elite guards flanked him, their plasma rifles trained on the human delegation. "You are here to save Xenos. Nothing more," Drakthor growled, his forked tongue flicking out to taste the air. "Do not mistake our desperation for trust, human." Russell met the Emperor's gaze unflinchingly. "We're here to do our job, Emperor. Let's not waste any more time." The Emperor led the humans through the twisting corridors of the palace, the echoing sound of their footsteps mixing with the low growls of the Pandronian guards. They entered the medical chamber, where Xenos lay motionless on a slab of black stone, his once vibrant crimson scales now a dull, lifeless grey. Dr. Chen immediately set to work, his hands flying over the advanced diagnostic equipment he had brought from Earth. Dr. Patel, meanwhile, carefully extracted samples of Xenos' blood and tissue, her brow furrowed in concentration. As the hours ticked by, the tension in the room grew thicker than the humid air. Zortak, the young clan leader who had nearly defeated Xenos in battle, paced the room like a caged animal, his claws flexing with barely contained rage. "This is an insult to our honor," Zortak snarled, his orange eyes blazing. "To think that we must rely on these soft, fleshy creatures to save our greatest warrior." Russell's jaw tightened, but he refused to rise to the bait. He focused instead on his team's efforts, watching as Dr. Chen's scanner beeped urgently. "I've found something," Dr. Chen said, his voice tight with concern. It's a fungal infection, highly aggressive and resistant to all known Pandronian treatments. It's attacking his internal organs. Dr. Patel's eyes widened. Wait, this looks similar to the fungus that once threatened Earth's crops. We developed a genetically engineered antifungal agent to combat it. Russell nodded. Can you modify it to work on Xenos? We can try, Dr. Patel said, already reaching for her equipment. The human team worked feverishly, synthesizing a new version of the antifungal agent, tailored specifically to Xenos' physiology. As they prepared to administer the treatment, Russell could feel the weight of the Pandronian's stares, a mixture of hope and hostility that left no room for error. He watched as Dr. Chen carefully injected the glowing blue liquid into Xenos' arm, silently praying that their efforts would be enough to save not only the warrior, but the future of an entire civilization. The fate of Pandros Prime hung in the balance, and the humans were the only ones who could tip the scales in their favor. Dr. Chen, sweat glistening on his brow, held the syringe of glowing blue antifungal agent above Xenos' limp form. But at that moment, the doors exploded inwards, and Zortak erupted into the room. He held his plasma sword high, his red scales glinting like blood. A dozen of his warriors flanked him, the barrels of their plasma rifles trained on the human team. Step away from Xenos, softskins, Zortak bellowed. Your poison ends here. You seek to weaken the mighty Pandros through Xenos, but I will not allow it. Russell Ward calmly stepped forward, one hand falling casually to the pulse pistol at his hip. His icy eyes locked onto Zortak's fiery orange glare. The tension in the room crackled like electricity. This is no poison. It's Xenos' only chance, Ward said, his voice level. An antifungal agent to stop the infection killing your champion. Lies, Zortak roared. He lunged at Ward, plasma sword humming. But Ward was no easy prey. He ducked the slash in a blur, then his hand shot out, seizing Zortak's sword wrist. A deft twist, a crack of bone and sinew, and the weapon clattered to the floor. The other warriors stood slack-jawed, plasma rifles lowering in shock. None had seen a human move so fast or disarm their fiercest fighter with such ease. But before they could react, Emperor Drakthor's voice boomed through the chamber. Enough! All eyes turned to the Emperor. He rose from his seat, cloak swirling like a living shadow. Zortak, stand down, Drakthor growled. The humans may be Xenos' only salvation. You will let them work. Zortak clutched his broken wrist, eyes smoldering with rage and humiliation. He backed away, but not before spitting at Ward's feet. This is not over, human, he hissed. When Xenos wakes, I will have my honor duel, and I will water the sand with your blood. As Zortak and his warriors withdrew, Dr. Chen plunged the syringe into Xenos' grey flesh. The antifungal agent surged through the champion's veins, a glowing river of hope. Xenos' vitals stabilized, his labored breathing eased. Hours crawled by, but with each passing minute, Xenos grew stronger. And as the twin suns set over the capital, the legendary warrior's eyes flickered open. Pandros had its champion back. But not all welcomed this victory. As Xenos healed and word of the human's feat spread, many Pandronian eyes turned to Russell Ward and his team with newfound respect, even awe. But Zortak and his loyalists glared with undiminished suspicion and hatred, their plots and machinations against the humans growing in the shadows of the palace halls. The battle for Xenos' life had been won, but a new war was brewing, one that would test both Ward and Zortak and decide the fate of two worlds. As the twin suns of Pandros Prime rose over the capital, Xenos stirred in his chambers, his strength slowly returning. He called for Russell Ward, the human who had saved his life. Ward strode into the room, his icy blue eyes meeting Xenos' piercing orange gaze. You fought well against Zortak, Xenos said, his voice still weak but filled with respect. Tell me of your world, of Earth's warriors and their battles. Ward sat beside the old champion, seizing the chance to bridge the gap between their races. He spoke of ancient Earth wars, of Sun Tzu and Alexander the Great, of Hannibal and Caesar. Xenos listened intently, his mind absorbing the strategies and tactics of these human legends. "Your people are not as soft as I once believed," Xenos admitted. "You are fierce, cunning, worthy allies in battle." As Ward shared Earth's military history with Xenos, Zortak schemed in the shadows. He gathered his followers in secret, stoking their fears of the outsiders. "The humans poison our champion's mind," Zortak hissed, his scales glinting in the torchlight. "Emperor Drakthor is weak to allow their influence. We must take action before they destroy our way of life." The rebels nodded, claws clenching their weapons. They would strike soon while the humans were still on Pandros Prime. Ward and his team prepared to depart, their mission to save Xenos a success. But as they entered the spaceport, plasma bolts sizzled through the air. Zortak and his insurgents charged, their roars echoing off the metal walls. Ward drew his pulse pistol, diving for cover. Loyal Pandronian warriors rallied to the humans' side, engaging the rebels in a fierce firefight. Plasma scorched stone and steel, the air thick with the stench of ozone and blood. Amidst the chaos, Ward spotted Zortak. The rebel leader's eyes burned with hatred as he lunged, plasma sword slashing. Ward rolled, the blade hissing past his face. He came up firing, but Zortak was fast, deflecting the shots with his sword. They clashed in a deadly dance, pistol against blade, human strength against Pandronian ferocity. Zortak pressed the attack, driving Ward back. The human's foot slipped on a fallen rebel's blood. Zortak seized the opening, his sword arcing down. A flash of crimson scales, a roar of defiance. Xeno slammed into Zortak, his wounds forgotten in the heat of battle. The champions grappled, claws and fists pummeling flesh. Ward leapt to his feet, joining Xenos. Together they pushed Zortak back, the rebel strikes growing desperate. With a final mighty blow, Xenos sent Zortak flying. The traitor smashed through the spaceport's railing, plummeting to the unforgiving ground far below. As the smoke cleared, and the last rebels fell, Emperor Drakthor emerged from the shadows. He clasped Ward's hand, his grip firm. "You have earned our trust and respect," Drakthor said. "Let this mark the beginning of a new alliance between our worlds." Xenos, standing tall despite his wounds, nodded. "I would learn more of your human ways of war," he said to Ward. As the USS Nightingale sliced through the void of space, carrying Russell, Ward and Xenos back to Earth, Emperor Drakthor's words echoed in their minds. The Pandronian leader had proposed a bold plan, a cultural exchange between their worlds, with Xenos serving as the first ambassador. Ward, seeing the potential for a lasting peace, had eagerly agreed. But as the human capital of New Babylon loomed before them, a sprawling metropolis of gleaming towers and seething masses, Ward sensed trouble brewing. The Nightingale touched down on a landing pad high above the city, and the pair emerged to a sea of faces, some curious, some wary, some openly hostile. "Welcome to Earth," Ward muttered, his hand resting on his pulse pistol. Xenos's orange eyes narrowed as he scanned the crowd, his scales bristling. "I sense fear in them and anger." Their reception only grew colder as they navigated the labyrinthine halls of power. Senator Eliza Maximoff, a hawkish figure with cold eyes and a colder smile, led the charge against them. "We cannot trust these creatures," she bellowed from the Senate floor, her voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics. "They are warriors, conquerors. They seek to undermine our way of life." Ward gritted his teeth as Maximoff's allies cheered, their xenophobic rhetoric spreading like a cancer. Even as he and Xenos worked to build bridges, attending state functions and touring cultural landmarks, they could feel the tide turning against them. "Is this what your world is?" Xenos growled after a particularly heated town hall meeting. "A nest of squabbling hatchlings, too afraid to see beyond their own scales." Ward sighed, running a hand through his close-cropped hair. "Not all of us, but enough to make trouble." Trouble found them soon enough. As they delved deeper into Earth's political underbelly, they uncovered a web of deceit that led straight to Maximoff's door. The senator, it seemed, was not content to merely sow hatred. She sought to provoke open war with the Pandronians, to seize power in the chaos. Their only chance was to expose her, to bring her conspiracies into the light. But Maximoff was always one step ahead, her machinations protected by layers of deniability and deception. Until Ward intercepted a coded message, detailing a secret meeting between Maximoff and her inner circle, a meeting where the final pieces of their plan would fall into place. "We have to stop them," Ward said, his jaw clenched, "no matter the cost." Xenos nodded, his claws flexing. "Then let us hunt." They stormed the meeting, pulse pistols blazing, Xenos's plasma sword carving a path through Maximoff's guards. But the senator was ready for them. Her conspirators opened fire with a barrage of plasma bolts, the air crackling with deadly energy. Ward dove for cover, dragging Xenos with him. But he was a heartbeat too slow. A bolt caught him in the chest, searing through his flesh. He fell, his blood pooling on the cold metal floor. Xenos roared, his sword flashing, his eyes burning with the fire of 1,000 suns. He cut down the last of the conspirators, then knelt at Ward's side, cradling his friend's head. "I must warn your people," Ward gasped, his life ebbing away. "War is coming, Maximoff. It will not stop." Xenos bowed his head, his voice thick with emotion. "I will not let your sacrifice be in vain, Russell Ward. I will become the leader my people need, the warrior you believed I could be." With a final shuddering breath, Ward was gone, and Xenos was alone, a stranger in a strange land, bearing the weight of 2 worlds on his shoulders. He returned to Pandra's Prime, his heart heavy with grief and purpose. He threw himself into his training, honing his skills, forging himself into a weapon, a symbol. And when the call to arms came, when the human fleet appeared in the skies above his world, he was ready. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Blade, watching as the human armada arrayed itself against him. 1,000 ships, bristling with weapons, their hulls glinting in the cold light of the stars. At their center, the USS Nightingale, the ship that had once brought him to Earth, that had carried his friend and ally. Now it was just another enemy, another target. "For Russell Ward," Xenos whispered, his claws tightening on the hilt of his sword. "For Pandra's Prime." He gave the order to attack, and the void erupted in fire. Plasma lanced through the darkness, ships exploded in silent fireballs, and the fate of 2 species hung in the balance. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.